Many thanks for joining us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Annetta Felix. The Nigerian Army troops of Operation Lafia Adoli have apprehended 2 female suicide bombers at Mushimiri village in Kondigo local government area of Borno. The army says the suspected suicide bomber and her accomplice were arrested while attempting to infiltrate the 222 Battalion defensive locations in the northeast. The Army statement investigation also noted that the improvised explosive device was successfully detached from their bodies, while an investigation has been launched to discover more fleeing terrorists. Meanwhile, a non-governmental organization, Center for International and Strategic Studies, has released a report on its finding on Boko Haram activities in the northeast. The report, published on Thursday, focuses on government activities in the region and the level of successes recorded so far. Onye Adekunle has more. After 5 years of hard work, different research, data collection, on-the-spot assessment and analysis of terror activities, this report is being presented in Abuja by the Center for International and Strategic Studies, CISS. The report focuses on the war against terrorism and assessment of the efforts of the federal government in addressing the issue. The report, which chronicled the different terror attacks on innocent people, concluded that the federal government has done enough to address the situation.
Coming to this 5-year report, it's a painstaking report. It's a report that is coming from the people on the field, not a report that is cooked up anywhere. And I have to tell again, I have 2 lecturers' friends who are in the University of Maiduguri. We are together 2 weeks ago. And we just ask ourselves, how is Maiduguri? Are people running from Maiduguri? And the young man said, listen, I'm inviting you to visit Maiduguri. 4 years, 5 years back, I can tell you for sure, some of us weren't staying in Maiduguri. Or if we stay in Maiduguri, we are so scared and afraid of our lives. But for today, with what this government is doing and with what this government has achieved, people can stay in Maiduguri and sleep soundly.
Stakeholders at the event say most of the reports in the media on the activities of insurgents are either exaggerated, fake news, or outright manipulation. The media was challenged to practice social responsibility journalism in the interest of the country.
It is Nigeria that our press, highly qualified, would wake up. You can criticize, but we should not destroy the tenets of our togetherness. There are several that don't want Nigeria. Are you with me? What sort of food do you give a man that don't want Nigeria? Money? Women? Power? In international relations, we are competing. And that competition is not compulsory that one nation likes Nigeria. Agencies, international organizations, civil security organizations, there are several that actually may not necessarily be against Nigeria, but they may say things, publish things that are really not in our favor. Reports that are released today that are talking of terrorists that have been making them saints to create an impression that we are losers. It doesn't follow. But such is international diplomacy. Nigeria is a practical instance of how reports are manipulated to distort history.
Well, actually, I would think there has been positive development, but far from expectation, because, you know, we never had deeper knowledge of the events surrounding Boko Haram activities during President Goodluck Jonathan's period as we have now. We must agree that every day technology improves. Most of things are brought into the public space. We know more about certain things than we did some years back. So I want to believe that You know, in those days, in Maiduguri, people were not moving. We are also aware that there were bomb blasts virtually everywhere, including Abuja. So I want to believe that some steps have been taken that are positive. But of course, a lot, like I said, a lot from the information we are gathering, or we have privilege to, a lot is yet to be done.
The 73-page report chronicled the insurgency years between 2013 and 2018. It was presented to over 200 civil society groups and academia for use and further research. Unyi Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
The Nigerian Senate has resolved to investigate the killing of the former Chief of Defense Staff, Alex Bade. Bade was shot dead along the Abuja-Kefi Road in his car on Tuesday. The Senate during plenary are asking the federal government to investigate the circumstances surrounding his assassination. The lawmakers have also urged the security agencies to search for his personal staff who have been held hostage by the assailant since the death of the former Air Marshal. Now, in response to this call, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has deployed the Police Intelligence Response Team and the Special Tactical Squad to Nasarawa State to fish out the killers of former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade. The Nasarawa State Police spokesman, Kennedy Idirisu, says this team will be led by senior military personnel, and the State Commissioner of Police, Yahya Bello, has also asked for valuable information to rescue the kidnapped persons and assures that any information will be treated with utmost confidentiality. Now, in Abuja, a group of rights activists marched to the national headquarters of the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, to demand the release of political activist Deji Adeyanju. Adeyanju was arrested by the Nigerian police force and is standing trial for alleged defamation. But the group says he is innocent and is asking the Human Rights Commission to wade into the arrest.
Family and associates fear a plot may be in the offing to eliminate Deji Adeyanju, as we have seen in recent time of cases and instances where suspects died mysteriously in police custody and there was hardly any autopsy and forensic investigation carried out on their behalf. That fellow comrades in the civil society fear that this is a conspiracy to not only take him out to a location beyond our reach, but to also execute a wicked plot to silence him ultimately.
We also want to again emphatically mention that the National Human Rights Commission must join the few voices on the streets calling for justice to prevail in this country. The few voices speaking truth to power in this country. The National Human Rights Commission must not be seen as having been cowed by this tyrannical regime of General Buhari.
I'm receiving this complaint on behalf of the Commission. We will look into this complaint and we will address it properly. I can assure you that the Commission is very much alive to its responsibilities. We will subject it to the due process that is usually associated with complaints. And I assure you, within the next few days, you will get a firm response from the Commission.
The National Industrial Court of Nigeria has stopped the leadership of the National Assembly workers from continuing with the strike action. The judge, Justice Sanusi Kado, gave the ruling in a suit filed by Senate President Bukola Saraki and Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara. The workers, under the aegis of Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, are currently on an industrial action over unpaid allowances. Dogara and Saraki had asked the court to restrain passing members from proceeding on strike pending the determination of the motion and notice before it, and the judge ruled in their favor. And the Nigerian Senate has confirmed the appointment of Bolaji Owosanoye as the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. The lawmakers also confirmed 8 others as members of the ICPC board. The members include Grace Chinda from Delta State, Okolo Titus from Enugu State, Obiora Igwedibia from Anambra State, Olubukola Balogun from Lagos State, and Justice Adamu Bello from Katsina State. The other members are Ahnatu Mohammed from Jigawa State, Abdullahi Seiju from Niger State, and Yahaya Dauda from Nasarawa State. The Senate also confirmed the appointment of Justice Uwani Abba as a justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Now, it is more than 24 hours since President Muhammadu Buhari submitted the 8.8 trillion naira 2019 budget proposal to lawmakers in the National Assembly. That document proposes 500 billion naira to be set aside from the total expenditure for special intervention programs. This decision drew protests from opposition, but APC lawmakers, including Senate leader Ahmed Lawan and Lagos State Senator Benga Ashafa, have backed the budget as presented by the president.
Trader money, the market money, and all those empower projects are projects that are hitting Nigerians live. And for that, I don't think there's an alternative to President Muhammadu Buhari in 2019. As I mentioned, the anti-corruption moves that he's making. And we are seeing that people are being convicted.
Our feeding program alone in schools, school feeding programs, which about 26 states are participating, we have captured over 9 million peoples across the country, regardless of political persuasion, because many of the states enjoying this are even opposition, ruled by opposition party or parties. And therefore, we want to make Nigeria better. We know our limitations, of course. There are people who have ganged up. They don't want development because development will free people from poverty. All they will say is they will go to the rallies and say, there is hunger in the land. There is poverty. Of course, there will be hunger. We are fighting that. We are fighting poverty because you stole everything. Who said there won't be hunger? When one person stole billions of dollars in Lagos alone, in Lekki Peninsula, estates built worth over 37 billion naira. Nobody can come out and say this is mine. But we know these are stolen, created from stolen funds. So we are going to make Nigeria better, and by the grace of God, most Nigerians will be on board. Any Nigerian who wants development, any Nigerian who is honest, will pitch his stand with President Muhammadu Buhari.
Meanwhile, in Lagos, a group, Liberty Movement LM, is canvassing for 30 million votes for President Muhammadu Buhari. The national coordinator of the group, Shola Ajayi, says Buhari and Yemi Osinbajo joint ticket remains the only option to guarantee Nigeria's continued progress in 2019. He says the Buhari administration has recorded phenomenal achievements in the last 3 years to put the country on the right course of sustainable development.
It is on this basis and many more that we hereby declare our unflinching support for President Muhammadu Buhari as the candidate of the people in the 2019 presidential election. The Liberty Movement hereby launch 30 million vote campaign for President Muhammadu Buhari these days. Wednesday, December 19, 2019. The Liberty Movement was established in 2019 as a mad movement to engage the democratic process. We are present in 31 states of the Federation, including Abuja. Our strategy is for the 30 million vote include house-to-house campaign, creek mobilization, market visit, road show, target of religious houses, target of women and students. To achieve this goal, we have divided ourselves into 6 zones, where each zone will be managed by the Central Working Committee.
We need to understand the pains, the genuine interests of this current leadership of PMB, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now to us, we are not only giving him the 30 million votes, we kick off the celebration from this moment. For the first time, we have a president with his genuine interests and commitments to the war against corruption, which has held his leadership as the chairman of anti-corruption in Africa.
Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of Grassroots Development Party of Nigeria, GDPN, David Nahime, has been explaining what he will do to improve Nigeria's unemployment figures. Over 20 million Nigerians are currently unemployed, according to a new data released by the country's Bureau of Statistics. To reduce those figures, Ahiman says his government will look at agriculture, industrialization, having improved energy of rural communities, and also set up mechanized agricultural settlements across the 6 geopolitical zones. He also highlighted some of his plans for the power sector.
We are going to be doing massive interventions, economic interventions, creating job opportunities for the masses, the mass majority of youths out there. Because let me tell you, no matter how much military strategy you deploy, when the people are unemployed, when the people are poor, when the people cannot feed themselves, and they get alternatives from the terrorists, you will continue to have recruitment into terrorist cells. Only about 5,000 megawatts is generated, when the requirement for Nigeria should be in the neighborhood of 25,000 or so megawatts. So what we are trying to do is to see how we can decentralize it and how we can bring to bear other forms of power generation, especially exploiting renewable energy sources. One of them is solar. Solar today plays a very important role in power generation everywhere in the world. For example, in China, you find massive solar farms, generating power to the national grid. You have communities that are dependent solely on solar. So what I intend to do when I become president is to explore the solar option.
Now, another presidential candidate is in the news, but this time, Omoyele Sowore, representing the African Action Congress, AAC, has filed a suit against the Nigerian Election Debate Group, NEDG. Sowore is suing the NEDG over the exclusion of his party's vice presidential candidate, Rabiu Rufai, in the debate which held on December 14th. Now, all the respondents in the suit are Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BON chairman and CEO of Channels Television, John Momo. The party, through its counsel, has also filed a motion on notice for an order of injunction restraining the NEDG, BON, and John Momo from organizing the January 19, 2019 debate without including its presidential candidate.
The people who are organizing debates, they also have government media apparatus, state media apparatus involved, like NTA, Radio Nigeria, and Voice of Nigeria, funded with taxpayers' money. So we are coming to court to say that this is not just a private adventure, and that the AAC should be included in debate. So we have filed an action today, seeking a declaration that the deployment of state media apparatus to the advantage of selected political parties and to the exclusion of the AAC and its candidate is clearly in contravention of Section 100, Subsection 2 of the Electoral Act. We are also saying that the AAC should be involved in the debate. We are also asking the courts to issue an order of injunction stopping and restraining the holding of this presidential debate slated for January 19, 2019 until our political party, the AAC, is allowed to participate in it. That is why we are in court. So we are basically here to seek redress.
It's a calculated, systematic attempt to deprive Nigerians of seeing a consistent, young, vibrant candidate with capacity, courage, and character that serves as the alternative that Nigerians have been looking for. The alternative is a young, vibrant person with dangerous courage like Omoyele Sowore and the Take It Back movement, which is now the fastest growing global movement, global political movement in Africa. So that's one of the things that we hope will come out of all of this.
Let's now take a break here and we'll return with more. Do stay with us.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
Wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other Paper Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
You're welcome back. Let's now join Fidelia Aguncha for business updates.
Well, the Presidential Steering Committee on the African Continental Free Trade Area Impact and Readiness Assessment will present its recommendations to President Muhammadu Buhari in January 2019. This was disclosed by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, in Abuja. He says that Nigeria has yet to sign the AFCFTA agreement, which seeks to remove all forms of restrictions to trade and investment flows within the African continent. The presidential aide says the present administration had launched a nationwide stakeholder consultation with the purpose of reflecting a wide range of views in the technical instruments. Well, President Buhari has now commissioned a new international terminal at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja. The newly constructed terminal is a project spearheaded by the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN. The international terminal sits on a 56,000 square meters of land with a 60-meter-long skywalk that connects the airport to the metro station, which was commissioned earlier in the year. President Buhari has commended the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, for ensuring the completion of the project.
I wish to assure you, therefore, that government remains committed to develop Nigeria in regional air transportation hub and thereby assuming its leadership in aviation sub-sector in Africa. Let me once again appreciate the efforts of the Federal Ministry of Transportation and Aviation, the government of the People's Republic of China, and the China Exim Bank for their financial support and the various roles they played leading to the successful completion of this project.
From political and economic perspectives, this airport is very strategic to Nigeria, not only because it is the gateway to the nation's capital, but also because it is the second busiest airport in the country and the fastest growing passenger traffic in West and Central Africa, with an average growth rate of 8%, where the world's average is 5.8%.
Nigeria's Ministry of Finance says the amount in the excess crude account, ECA, has declined from $2.3 billion to $631 million in the period of 3 weeks. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Mahmoud Jushe, told newsmen in Abuja that withdrawals were made by the federal government from the ECA to settle the last tranche of the Paris Club refund. He says the balance in the ECA is $631 million, adding that the final payment of the Paris Club refund to states was made and the figure was deducted, which account for the difference.
The total was distributed among the 3 tiers of government after deducting the usual cost of collection, which totaled 18.5 billion naira. And in line with what we've decided to be saving for the future, we transferred 50 billion naira to the excess crude account. And following these deductions, distributions were made as follows. Federal government got 280.9 billion naira, the states 142.48 billion, local governments 109.8 billion, and then the states on account of derivation got 47.8 billion, making a total of 581.125 billion.
Well, let's now focus on the stock market after this. comeback today, reversing yesterday's loss with a 0.32% rise in key market indicators. The all-share index is appreciating by almost 100 points to close at 30,802 basis points, while the market capitalization stands at 11.251 trillion naira. Now, that's a boost of over 35 billion naira. Well, also making a comeback is Seplat, reversing almost all of yesterday's loss and appreciating by 37 naira to close at 593 naira. Next on the chart is Dangote Cement with a 2.15% rise in its share price, recovering from yesterday's 3 naira drop. Konoy is the third biggest gainer today, while Dangote Sugar is rising despite a 0.25% drop in the consumer goods sector, and that's it right there. And talking about the consumer goods sector, Nestle is the reason for the drop in the sector, pulling it down with its 10 naira plunge in its share price. Well, the loss comes after a 20 naira gain yesterday, which saw Nestle lead the pack of gainers. Total is also plunging despite a 3.31% rise in the oil and gas sector, and coming in fourth on the chart is Flour Mill with a 0.85% rise. Well, moving on to the top traders chart, the streak of losses extended to the banking sector, making it the biggest decliner, dropping by 1.61%. And the effect can be seen on the top traders chart right here. Well, WAPCO is the only one remaining indifferent. That is, Lafarge Africa is the only equity in the clear, maintaining its share price by 11.75 naira for the second consecutive day. Well, let's go global now, and we can see that they are all in the red. Nikkei is dropping for the third straight day, declining by over 1,000 points. That is in the streak of 3-day losses, hitting 9-month low. Well, this comes after the Chinese Central Bank announced a new targeted lending tool, and the decision of the U.S. Federal Reserve to raise rates largely affected the performance of the Dow today, pushing it down by over 600 points to edge down by 0.77%, and FTSE is also declining, dropping by 0.59%. Well, it's back to Annetta now.
Thank you for that update, Fidelia. And I recall that yesterday, analysts warned of a very volatile the next few days in the stock market. And we see that actually playing out in today's trading activities, and in fact, for the trading activities for the past few days.
Yes, that's correct.
So we'll take a break now, and we'll bring you more stories on the continental scene. Do stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Cut. All right. What's your name again? Kemi? Yes, sir. Good. Are you ready for us for next week?
Yes, sir.
Next.
No, sir. No.
What? Look, what we need here is one who can speak fluent English. Give her a chance.
I need a angel to hold me. Hold me, my beautiful angel.
Cut! It is angel, not angel. Please, I'm done with you. Excuse us. Kemi was far better.
It's not about our rendition. It's not about our performance here. By the time she and her friends join us in our hotel rooms, you will know how far.
Can I have her phone?
She has a robust profile.
Real robust profile. I do not undercut professional ethics. It is an act of corruption. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
At least 11 migrants have been found dead in a boat in the sea off southern Spain, along with 33 survivors on Thursday. The Coast Guard spokeswoman says that rescuers had taken the migrants who came from sub-Saharan Africa to the Spanish port of Almeria early Thursday. She says rescue services had been searching for the boat for 2 days in the sea between Spain's southern Andalusia region and the north of Morocco. There was no indication that minors were among the dead or survivors. The Coast Guard is searching for 3 other boats in the same area, each with between 50 and 55 migrants on board. Spain has become one of the main points of entry into Europe for irregular migration, ahead of Greece and Italy. Now, Congo's election will be indefinitely delayed despite already being more than 2 years behind schedule. The election will replace Joseph Kabila, who has been president for nearly 18 years. One of the presidential candidates, Noel Tishani, says they were told that Sunday's long-promised vote could not be held on time because of technical problems, a fire that incinerated thousands of voting machines last week, and an intensifying Ebola outbreak in the country's restive east. Kabila's chosen successor, Emmanuel Ramzani Shadari, is facing off primarily against two other candidates, Felix Tshisekedi, the son of Congo's veteran opposition leader, who died earlier this year, and Martin Fayulu, a former Exxon executive who is backed by two political heavyweights who were barred from candidacy. Let's turn to sports news now, as the Super Eagles of Nigeria has ended the year 2018 maintaining their 44th position in the latest FIFA World Ranking. The three-time African champions also retained their 4th position in Africa. Ghana Roar's men also did not add to their 1,427 points amassed last month due to inactivity. Senegal also retained top spot in Africa, with Tunisia, Morocco, Nigeria and DR Congo completing the top 5 team in the continent. Belgium remained top in the latest FIFA World Ranking, with France, which is second and unchanged, Brazil retaining its 3rd position, followed by Croatia and England. The month's biggest movers are Guyana, who moved 3 positions to 177th, with the CONCACAF Nations League qualifier draw against Barbados. Now, the police are now investigating the case of a person who threw a bottle at England midfielder Dele Alli on Wednesday. Arsenal says they have identified an image of the person, admitting that they're embarrassed by the incident. The 22-year-old Ali was struck on the head by a plastic bottle during Spurs' 2-0 win in the Carabao Cup quarter-final at the Emirates Stadium. The Metropolitan Police says it is working with Arsenal to identify the person responsible, but no arrests have been made so far. And that's the news updates, reaching you live on TV360 Nigeria. Thanks for watching. I am Annetta Felix.